are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am starting my series, New Lands by Charles Fort. I should say review, New Lands by Charles Fort. As always, you can, always you can find new episodes of the show, all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, along with also links to friends of the show, including Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and currently putting out content here and there when she can, and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays when she's able to join me. And all that can be found, like I said, at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com, and go from there. So I'm really excited about this in a way because we've been reading and reviewing the Book of the Damned for quite a while now. So I'm excited to see where Fort goes with his next nonfiction book here. A few things to keep in mind, same as the first book and the two that'll come after this one. Mine just went blank. There may be things that Fort says, writes, that you and or I do not agree with. It's happened before, I'm sure it'll happen again. Also, there may be things he talks about and it makes it seem like they're mysterious that are not mysterious anymore. But that can happen, considering these books are almost 100 years old. So, and I've also, last but not least, I apologize in advance for mispronouncing any names of people or places, as words are hard, and not all the names are even in English in his books. So with that out of the way, we can get into the very beginning here of New Lands. And this will be very much like I did with Book of the Damned, where I read, and then whenever I have thoughts or comments on things, I'd stop and share them as we go. And also happy to hear any feedback from you all as far as what you thought about, once you get through with it, the whole thing, about, or even before, I guess, doesn't matter, before, thoughts on the Book of the Damned, any thoughts you may have, and as far as after you listen to that series. So, anyway, let me get back to the document here, and I will start reading once I find the top of it. Okay, so, Chapter 1, again, of New Lands by Charles Fort. Lands in the sky, that they are nearby, that they do not move. I take for a principle that all being is the infinitely serial, that's SERIAL, and that whatever has been will, with differences of particulars, be again. The last quarter of the 15th century, land to the west. This first quarter of the 20th century, we shall have revelations. There will be data. There will be many. Behind this book, unpublished collectively or held as constituting its reserve forces, there are other hundreds of data. But independently, I take for a principle that all existence is a flux and a reflux, by which, apologize for the sound from outside, by which periods of expansion follow periods of contraction, that few men can even think widely when times are narrow times, but the human constrictions cannot repress extensions of thoughts and lives and enterprise and dominion when times are wider times. So then that the pageantry of foreign coasts that was revealed behind blank horizons after the year 1492 cannot be, in the course of development, the only astounding denial of seeming vacancy, that the spirit or the animation and the stimulations and the needs of the 15th century are all appearing again, and that requital may appear again. Aftermath of war, as in the year 1492. Demands for readjustments, crowded and restless populations, revolts against limitations, intolerable restrictions against emigrations. The young man is no longer urged, or is no longer much inclined, to go westward. He will, or must, go somewhere. If directions alone no longer invite him, he may hear invitation in not in dimensions. There we go. There are many persons who have not investigated for themselves, who think that both poles of this earth have been discovered. There are too many women traveling luxuriously in quotation marks, darkest Africa. Eskimos of Disco, Greenland, wow, that's amazing for a name, are publishing a newspaper. There must be outlet, or there will be explosion. Outlet and invitation and opportunity. San Salvador's of the sky, a Plymouth Rock that hangs in the heavens of Serbia, a foreign coast from which storms have brought materials to the city of Birmingham, England, or the mentally freezing or dying will tighten their prohibitions, and the chill of their censorships will contract to extinction our lives, which, without sin, represent matter deprived of motion. Their ideal is death, or proximate death, warmed over occasionally, only enough to fringe with uniform, decorous icicles, there we go, from which there will be no escape. If for the living and sinful and adventurous there be not San Salvador's, somewhere else, a Plymouth Rock of reversed significance, coasts of sky continents. So again, he's talking about some of what he went over in his first book there, his first nonfiction book, book on just anomalous falls of objects and just all kinds of things from the sky. It amazes me earlier when he was talking about all the data that he's collected and how he's put so much in his books, and yet there's so much that he has not even put in his books. Can you imagine finding just the complete, I mean, it probably doesn't exist anymore. I believe I read somewhere that he did destroy a large chunk of research after, I think, getting frustrated with it. But could you imagine finding somehow the collected notes and papers of Charles Fort and just being able to read through everything, all the clippings and references and all those things? It'd probably take quite a long time to do, but it'd still be amazing. Back to the book here. But every consciousness that we have of needs and all hosts, departments, and subdivisions of data that indicate the possible requital of needs are opposed, not by the orthodoxy of the common Puritans, but by the Puritans of science and their austere, disheartening, dried or frozen orthodoxy. Islands of Space. See Scientific American, volume this and that, volume this and page that. I do love that. Accounts from the reports of the British Association for the Advocacy, I'm not sure, of Science, Nature, etc. Except for an occasional lapse, our sources of data will not be sneered at. As to our interpretations, I consider them, myself, more as suggestions and gropings and stimuli. Islands of space and the rivers and the oceans of an extra geography. Stay and let salvation damn you, or straddle an auroral beam and paddle from Rigel to Beetlejuice. Huh. Beetlejuice. Different Beetlejuice, but anyway. If there be no accepting that there are such rivers and oceans beyond this earth, stay and travel upon steamships with schedules that can be depended upon, food so well cooked and well served, comfort looked after so carefully, or someday board the thing that was seen over the city of Marseilles, August 19th, 1887, and ride on that, bearing down upon the moon, giving up for lost, escaping collision by the swirl of a current that was never heard of before. There are, or there are not, nearby cities of foreign existences. They have, or they have not, been seen by reflection in the skies of Sweden and Alaska, as one will. Whether acceptable or too preposterous to be thought of, our data are rabbles of living things that have been seen in the sky. Also of processions of military beings, monsters that live in the sky and die in the sky and spatter this earth with their red life fluids. Ships from other worlds that have been seen by millions of the inhabitants of this earth, exploring night after night in the sky of France, England, New England, and Canada. Signals from the moon, which, according to notable indications, may not be so far from this earth as New York is from London. Definitely reported, and in some instances, multitudinously witnessed events that have been disregarded by our opposition. A scientific priestcraft. Thou shalt not is crystallized in its frozen textbooks. I have data upon data upon data of new lands that are not far away. I hold out expectations and the materials of new hopes and new despairs and new triumphs and new tragedies. I hold out my hands to point out to the sky, or to point to the sky. There is a hierarchy that utters me manacles. I think there is a dominant force that pronounces prisons that have dogmas for walls for such thoughts. It binds its formulas around all attempting extensions. But sounds have been heard in the sky. They have been heard, and it is not possible to destroy the records of them. They have been heard. In the repetitions and regularities of series and intervals, we shall recognize perhaps interpretable language, columns of clouds, different colored by sunset, have vibrated to the artillery of other worlds, like the strings of a cosmic harp. And I conceive of no buzzing of insects that can forever divert attention from such dramatic reverberations. Language has shone upon the dark parts of the moon. Luminous exclamations that have fluttered in the lunar crater Copernicus. The eloquence of the star-like light in Aristarchus. Hymns that have been chanted in lights and shades upon lime. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. The wilder, luminous music in Plato. But not a sound that has been heard in the sky, not a thing that has fallen from the sky, not a thing that should not be, but that has nevertheless been seen in the sky, can we, with any sense of freedom, investigate until first we find out about the incubus that, in the past, has suffocated even speculation. I shall find out for myself. Anybody who cares to may find out with me. A ship from a foreign world does or does not sail in the sky of this earth. It is in accordance with observations by hundreds of thousands of witnesses that this event has taken place. And if the time be when aeronautics upon this earth is of small development, that is an important circumstance to consider. But there is suffocation upon the whole occurrence, and every one of its circumstances. Nobody can give good attention to the data if diverting his mind is consciousness, altogether respectful of the scientists who say that there are no other physical worlds except planets. Millions of miles away. Distances that conceivable vessels could not traverse. I should like to let loose, in an opening bombardment, the data of the little black stones of Birmingham, which, time after time, in a period of 11 years, fell, obviously, from a fixed point in the sky. But such a release now would be wasted. It will have to be prepared for, have to be prepared for. Now each one would say to himself that there are no such fixed points in the sky. Why not? Because astronomers say that there are not. There are not, period, not question mark. But there is something else that is implied. Implied is the general supposition that the science of the science of astronomy represents all that is most accurate, most exacting, painstaking, semi-religious in human thought, and is therefore authoritative. Anybody who has not been through what I've been through in investigating this subject would ask, what are the bases and what is the consistency of the science of astronomy? The miserable, though at times amusing, confusion of thought that I find in this field of supposed research word my I see. So I think all right. So I didn't miss anything. My supposed research word my inquiry differently. What of dignity or even of decency is in it? Threw me off there, but sorry about that. Phantom dogmas with their tails clutching at vacancies are coiled around our data. Serpents of pseudo-thought are stifling history. They are squeezing thou shalt not upon development. New lands and the horrors and lights, explosions and music of them. Rabbles of hellhounds and the march of military angels. But they are promised lands, and first must we traverse a desert. There's ahead of us a waste of parallaxes and spectrograms and triangulations. It may be weary going through a waste of astronomic determinations, but that depends. Let's see. One last paragraph here. If out of a dreary academic zenith shower betrayals of frailty, folly, I can't talk, and falsification, they will be manna to our malices. And that's where I'll stop with this episode. I think we're almost done with this first chapter, but we are out of time for this show. So I'm looking forward to continuing with this. He's talking about these new places, and to me, even if these places he's talking about, these new lands, these masses of whatever that he thinks are out there, suggests they're out there, maybe he doesn't even think so, but it's just his best explanation for the sources of all these falling objects. Even if all that doesn't exist, the falls of these objects did and do. So, but thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.